didn't know how slow they really were. But they looked quick. And it's just awesome.
Welcome to the Orange Suits and Boots podcast. I'm your host, James Fire, and today I'll be talking to Andy Owens, a fellow marshal, in episode 2, That Tree's Gonna Kill Me.
Hello, I'm Andy. I'm a track marshal, mainly at Donington, but also Silverstone, a load of other circuits as well. I started off rallying when I was 18.
Did you actually?
Yeah, I joined the Sheffield University Motor Club. I had a car.
Okay.
I needed to fix it. So I joined the motor club and I had access to a whole garage full of tools, which was brilliant. So I could fix my car. And because it's a motor club, they obviously did sporting events. We did auto solos and rallies and God knows what. So I got into rallying.
Okay.
And it was fun to start with. And then I realised I wasn't particularly competitive, so I thought, I've got to go faster. Just go for it.
Yeah.
There comes a point where you're going so fast for your ability that you realise you're going to exceed your limits and you're going to break your car or hurt yourself. So you back off. Now, I didn't want to go beyond that limit ever.
That's fair.
Therefore, I was never going to be competitive, and I decided that was enough.
That makes sense. It sounds terrifying.
And at that point, I thought, do you know what? I still want to win, so I'll go co-driving. And I got into a car with this guy, and he was pretty good. He was about 5th in our club. He was pretty competent.
Okay.
And then I realised that I was in the car with a psychopath who didn't care if he crashed and killed himself, let alone me. So I was going through a forest in Derbyshire, sideways towards a tree, going, that tree's going to kill me. Maybe this isn't for me. I mean, it's bad enough when you've got control of the car, when you've got no control of the car because the maniac beside you's got control of the car, and you're still going to die. Maybe it's not a good idea.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
There's very much a difference between driving a car for on road and for sporting purposes, and you have to be in a situation where it doesn't matter if you crash. The trouble with the motor club was they didn't really follow what you might call sporting rules.
Oh.
A lot of this was on public roads at night. This is in the 1980s.
I was going to say, is this legit, or is this just like some club you joined?
Probably wasn't as legit then, and it certainly isn't now. I think Motorsport UK have rules for the number of cars that go on circuits and events.
Yeah.
I think they had rules then, and I don't think we applied them. We were young, we were stupid.
Yeah.
I'm still alive, thank God.
Exactly. That tree didn't get you.
No.
What was co-driving like?
If you're on a stage, you don't know what's around the next corner. You don't know what's 2 corners ahead. So there's no advance warning of what's coming apart from what your co-driver's saying.
Yeah.
At which point, your co-driver, you have to be right on it, quite frankly. You have to know where you are. You have to not throw up.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you not throw up? I get travel sick anyway, but that just seems like a whole other level.
You basically blank it from your mind. You don't have time to think.
Okay.
You're too busy mentally projecting where you are and making sure you're at the right point of the notes. If you get behind on the notes, you're in a tree or off a cliff. And it's a bit late.
Just a little bit.
So there's a couple of videos on YouTube that are quite funny of the guy just gets completely out of it. And the driver is still driving because then he's driving to his corner. He's driving to what he can see, which is never optimum.
No.
What you're trying to do is give him more information so he can get ahead of that. And he can go around that corner that bit faster.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
It's a hell of a challenge. Trying to get the notes right is the biggest challenge I find, or found. I don't do it. No way I'm doing that ever again. I'm too old for this shit.
And yet you're still here in orange. And occasionally blue.
I'd rather be doing orange and doing safety rather than being a maniac and getting myself into the situations where I needed someone to pull me out of it.
That is fair.
You have to be stupid to be a racer. You have to be stupid to be a a successful racing driver.
Yeah, you've got to be able to put that fear aside.
You have to not care about crashing. You have to be able to afford it for starting, which I could never do as a kid.
No.
I didn't want to bend my car, and more importantly, I didn't want to bend me.
Yeah.
So I was never competitive. I've got kids and a dog to worry about now.
Yeah, that's fair.
When I was young and stupid, it didn't matter. kind of does now.
Yeah.
Plus, my bones would probably break easier, and I don't like pain.
What a mood. As someone that dislocates easy, what a mood. So, how did you go from rally and co-driving into marshalling?
I didn't.
Did you not?
No. I just basically faded away from motorsport in my mid-20s. I still watched F1 on telly, there was still some good racing. And then work, I mean, it happens to a lot of people. Work gets in the way, then family gets in the way, and then before you know it, you're washing the car on a Sunday morning, and oh, geez.
Yeah.
It's all very dull, and it's just, you have to do stuff. And then, I got invited to Donington. It was a Porsche Cup day, I think it was. There was Porsches and something else was out, can't remember what, but got invited by Porsche, come to Donington for a hospitality day. Came along, sat in the tent in the paddock, had lunch on them, had a cappuccino, that was nice.
That sounds good.
Big screen in the there's a big blow up tent actually. Yeah, sitting there having a watch the racing going round because it was chucking it down with rain that day. So the incentive was to stay in the tent and have the hospitality, and that was very nice. And I thought, let's go for a wander around the circuit. Got about as far as post 7, whatever that is these days. 1, 2. Oh, I don't even know. Post 7.
Something point something.
Down there somewhere. And it was a bit wet, so I wasn't inclined to do the full spectator thing, but it was quite fun.
Okay.
And watching the cars go down the Craner curves, round the old hairpin, up Swans, and they were quick. They were Porsches, so I didn't know how slow they really were, but yeah, they looked quick. And I quite enjoyed it. And as I was walking back towards the paddock, you hear on the tannoy this guy says, "Hey, if you want to try and be a marshal, apply for a taster day."
Oh, that's weird timing.
So I thought, okay, that's a good thought. I was ramping down at work at the time anyway. I was thinking about retirement at the time. I thought, what else am I going to do with my time? I'll give that a go, thinking about it. And I thought, I'll wait a couple of weeks. If I'm still interested, it's a flyer.
That's smart.
So I waited a couple of weeks, applied for a taster day, came on a taster day, and I was sat on the pit exit at Donington with GT cars just like today.
Oh.
Screaming full tilt out the pit lane.
Oh, yes.
I think I was there with Nick Beasley as well. And it was just awesome. I mean, the sounds, the smells.
Yeah.
I just couldn't resist at that point. Again, I thought I'll give it a couple of weeks, and if I'm still feeling like this, it's definitely worth applying. I mean, I had a few things I needed to clear up in my life anyway, and then I came back a couple of months later, and I don't think there's been many weekends that I haven't been at a motor racing circuit since. I do a lot of incident work, and that's a combination of standing around all day doing nothing and then bursts of 5 minutes of activity.
See, I couldn't do that.
I like that.
That's fair.
It's a genuine coiled springs moment. You hang around, you're watching, you're not really putting a lot of effort in. You wander out on track occasionally and sweep up, pick up stuff, whatever. And then when the shit hits the fan, you get out there and you have to know what you're doing and do it quickly. It's about saving lives and potentially saving property. Yeah. Generally you get there and it's not as dramatic as it ever looked.
Really?
Yeah. Major incident, bits of car everywhere, drivers tend to get out and walk away. Worst case, you open the door and say, "Driver, are you okay?" and they say, "Yeah," and walk away.
Oh my God.
Very occasionally, they're not. I've had a few fires. I was told fires were quite rare, and then in my first year I had 3 fires within about 6 months.
What?
And I thought, fires aren't as rare as the people are telling me.
No.
And I haven't had one since. And that's in like 7 seasons now. So
Typical,
they're pretty rare. I've seen fires. I've talked with people on the team who've had fires. Some of them could be pretty big. Mostly they don't exist. because cars just don't burn.
No, I was going to say, I really thought going into marshalling that I'd be tackling fires like every weekend. And now I'm here, I've dealt with more in training than I have on circuit.
And that's the point. The training is there to get you good at what you have to do without necessarily people being in jeopardy.
Yeah.
People are in jeopardy, they're having a bad day. We don't really want that. You want all the safety systems to kick in before it gets that far. The nightmare ones seem to be caterhams.
Because of the fuel tank.
Fuel tank being at the back. If you hit a caterham from the back, you tend to rupture the fuel tank if you hit it hard enough. At which point I've seen two of those. One at the old hairpin, one up at McLean's. And I know the people who dealt with both of those.
Yeah.
And yeah, they put them out pretty quickly. Drivers, minor burns. But you think there's an inferno going on, and the driver gets out, yeah, they get minor burns. It's a bit upsetting.
Yeah.
But they'll be racing the following week or within a few weeks.
Yeah.
It's
not going to stop them.
It's not going to stop them, and it's not that serious when you actually boil it down to the reality of the injuries.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, as I say, I've done 3 fires. They're all relatively minor. They're all put out in seconds.
Yeah, mine was really tiny. I felt dead bad. Just took a squirt of the extinguisher. That extinguisher was then gone for the rest of the weekend.
But if you weren't there, that could have grown into a bigger fire. You could have lost the car. If the driver was unconscious or just trapped for some reason. I mean, I've seen a driver get trapped because his shoelace got caught around the brake pedal.
What?
He couldn't get out. And again, something as trivial as that, it's the same as what Grosjean.
Yeah.
He couldn't get out of his major crash because his shoelaces were tied around various bits of car, and he managed to get his shoe off. Now, I've not been anything like that serious, and yeah, you just have to get in and undo the shoelace and help them out because they can't reach down there. Oh, that sound is awesome, isn't it?
It's so good. I love the GTs. I really do. It's a busier weekend, and it's not always the most fun in the pit lane because some of it you are just stuck on the pit wall.
Yeah.
But for the sound, for the cars, when you're doing the flagging and the penalties, it's something else.
Shall we open the door? Yeah, open the door. Let the sound in.
I mean, listen to that.
Oh, what was that? AMG Mercedes.
These doors are heavy, but it's so amazing.
That sound got me on a taste today. That's what brought me back. Here we are, getting it for free because we're marshals.
Yes.
That's what I love about this whole thing. You get a front row seat for next to nothing. I mean, you still have to buy some kit. You have to travel to places. You have to pay extortionate prices for food sometimes.
Oh.
But ultimately, you get the best seat in the house.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
You really do. Like, I'm not being funny. The pit exit here is terrifying. Sometimes I've nearly been squashed by a legend.
Oh God, legends.
It's terrifying, but there is nowhere else like it.
No.
Standing between cars going full pelt down the start-finish straight and cars gearing up to go back out onto the track is a whole nother feeling.
I can well imagine that. Actually, if I was going to do pit lane, that's the bit I think I would enjoy most.
I'd recommend it.
Yeah.
I'd recommend trying.
I don't like the massive number of step counts that people seem to put in when they're walking around the pit lane all the day.
So, I'm pretty sure the weekend that I did Chief Pit, I did 20,000 steps a day.
Yeah. People post all of those all the time, and I think I do that when I'm walking the dog, and I don't really want to do it on a weekend as well, which is why I like being out on incident. I can stand there for most of the day, barely walking. I can run 100 yards carrying a fire extinguisher and not kill myself. That's good enough for me.
See, that's my thing. How do you do that? I've never run across gravel with an extinguisher, and it looks like the hardest thing. I could walk with an extinguisher. I'm pretty sure if adrenaline was going, I could run with one. But I'm pretty sure I'd fall face first into gravel if I tried to go more than a quick walk.
You get used to it.
Okay.
Well, you only have to do it a few times. And I mean, the first time I did it wasn't particularly quick. When you see a fire and you go, shit, Or more importantly, you see someone. I saw a car at where was it now? Cops outside at Silverstone. C1, I believe. Came off rather fast. Got it sideways on the tarmac runoff. Clipped the corner of the gravel, or the side of the gravel. Rolled it 2.5 times up onto the tyre wall, and there's about 4 tyres deep there. So he didn't really mash the tyres, but he rolled it, and as he rolled onto the tyre wall.
Oh my gosh!
At which point he thought his accident was over.
Yeah.
So he undid his clips.
Oh.
At which point we're all going, that was a big roll. We're legging it there.
Yeah.
The incident officer, he looks in through the window, sees this guy rolling around inside the car as it rolls off the tyre wall back onto the gravel trap. And all he saw was it like bouncing around inside the cockpit. And he thought, shit, this guy hasn't got belts on. Now fortunately he had an accident wearing belts. He'd just taken them off when he thought his incident was over.
Oh my god.
But wasn't quite. He had a half roll back onto the gravel.
No.
And we're all going, what is going on here? This is a big roll.
Yeah.
And the car's all mashed up and bent. And so we're legging it very quickly at this point.
Yes.
I mean, you're not expecting a fire, but you're taking a fire extinguisher anyway, just in case. And we're running, I mean, it's not gravel, but around the back of there is rough, broken tarmac.
Nice.
So you're legging it there, and then you've got to get over the tyre wall and down to the driver, and there's still cars coming round. But you kind of get used to it, and as you say, the adrenaline's running.
Yeah.
You're not really worried about it. You get there and you're out of breath.
Yeah.
But you get used to, after a while, of getting there and being totally knackered and out of breath and not being able to talk.
Yeah.
You take it back a notch or two, and then you get to a point where you know how fast you can run and arrive and do work. Because there's no point in getting there and being useless.
To be fair, last season I remember having to run down the pit lane. The first time I was out of breath. I could not do anything when I got there. And I went, this is stupid.
Yep.
This is absolutely stupid. This is the opposite of what I've been taught. I'm useless here. So the second time, it wasn't as bad. And I kind of, by the fourth time, I got to a point where I understood how quick I could go for how far I needed to go to still be useful when I got there.
It's a fast jog.
Yeah.
If you're carrying a fire extinguisher, you take it back a notch.
Yeah.
Just so you get there able to work.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point, is doing the job when you get there. If someone else is nearer, let them get to it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If someone else is fitter, let them get to it. Otherwise, you get there when you get there and you do the job that you need to do.
Yeah.
But there's no point in getting there and being totally exhausted.
No, you just make casualty yourself.
Exactly. And sometimes it's a long run. I've gone from Club to halfway to Stowe at Silverstone. Now that's, I don't know, 400 yards. And this was a wet day, so we were all wearing full waterproofs. I was wetter on the inside from the sweat than I was on the outside from the rain.
Yep.
And it was a long walk. It was a long run, but it wasn't a fast run. It wasn't a serious incident. The car had just pulled off, so there's no point in breaking your neck to get there. It was still hot by the time I got there.
Yeah.
And then it was a Bentley. I remember it distinctly. 2.5 ton Bentley.
Oh.
At which point we had to push that damn thing off the racing line. We were trying to get it off the circuit, but we got it off the racing line, off the main bit of track and onto a side bit of track, and we were trying to push it across the grass, and it just got to the grass and it would just sunk in. That was it. We abandoned it at that point. It's safe.
What a surprise!
I'm too knackered. Couldn't push it anymore.
No.
But there comes a point you have to get the car to move, and if you can't, basically it's a safety car and get a recovery truck.
Yeah.
So we managed to get it. It was about 100 yards off the track. It was fine.
Yeah, that's decent. They're not going to hit it there, are they?
Well, you'd have to try.
Yeah. Not without putting some effort in.
Yeah. Anything can happen. But I think Jim said once, if a car can see it, it can hit it.
Okay, that's fun. How did you get into doing the taster days?
I strolled along to the BMMC Midlands Region AGM because I've never been to one, and thought I'd see what it's like, see what goes on at an AGM. I listened to all the stuff that I spoken to, and got to Kate's bit, and she was the Taste of Day administrator at the time. So she was saying she needed some help with some emails, I think was the phrase she used. I had a chat with Kate and said, yeah, I can help you with some emails. It's fine. I had some time on my hands. I can spend a couple of hours a week helping with emails. So I became her assistant, and then co-opted me onto the committee as a member to help with Taste of Days. And I kind of was the one that didn't step back fast enough. I kind of said, okay, I'll do it then. And how bad can it be? Doing a few emails, running a couple of days. It can't be that bad, surely. Oh my God! Did I underestimate how much a few emails means? I have newfound respect for all chief marshals, for anyone who administers any motorsport event, because I'm dealing with a tiny corner of a day.
Yeah.
This is the Taste of Day. I've got 15 people today. Chief marshals deal with 100 plus marshals and deal with the event and the race logs and all sorts of stuff that goes on beforehand. It's hard work.
One of the Taste of Day people was saying to me today that they want to look at going onto the rescue units. And I was like, well, that comes a bit later, but I don't actually know how you get into that.
It's the same as any motorsport stuff. You volunteer. You have to have some kind of credibility. You've got to have some experience of things. And then, basically on the Donington, I just ticked the box on Mel's volunteering form. Said, do you want to do, race control, fire or rescue unit or something else? And I just ticked the box for rescue. And then, lo and behold, Nick dropped me an email. And it all happened from there.
Oh my gosh. You tick a box and now you're 60 modules down the line.
And you have to do each of those 60 odd modules 3 times.
Oh, why?
Because the first time you learn it, you forget it. The second time you learn it, you actually have a clue. The third time you learn it, you go, now I really understand it.
I can repeat this.
And then you have to start being able to explain it to other trainees. And I find that's the best way to learn, is to teach. If I'm having to explain to someone else how and why, they tend to get it, and I have to know it to explain the why. How is generally fairly straightforward. How and what? But why? There's a lot of thinking goes into the background of that.
Makes sense.
That's just life, isn't it?
Yeah. Since a kids ask why all the time.
That's true.
I was one of those kids. Shockingly enough.
I can believe that.
Why?
But that's what, I've seen you, and Ryan has said, is she teaching again?
Seriously?
And that's because you teach, and I can see you doing it because you understand what you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing and you understand the why, you can explain it to someone else much more easily.
Yeah.
That was that day at Silverstone.
Yeah.
And Ryan's response was, is she teaching again? Yes.
Yeah. I was surprised at how much, like today in the pit lane, when you went, okay, you're going to take them into the pit lane, part of me went, I'm sorry, what? And then I got there and I went, actually, I know what I'm doing. And it just all started flowing and I went...
I would hope you know what you're doing. If you've been Chief Pits...
It helps, yeah.
You may have only done it once or twice, but you still have to know it all to be able to get to that level. How many years have you been doing this? 4 years?
This is my 4th year.
This is your 4th year, so within 3 years you were Chief Pits.
Yeah.
Come on.
And Chief Flag.
There you go.
/start
you
line.
know what you're doing.
Yeah. But it's one of those things you don't necessarily realise until you're doing it, and then you're like, actually, this is fine, it's not as stressful as I thought it would be.
And when you come to explain to someone, you realise you do actually know it. You may not have all the experience. There's people doing this 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they've seen a lot of stuff. I know I don't know everything, but I know enough to be able to work stuff out pretty much whatever happens now.
Yeah.
And I've done enough of it to know that I can handle it and be relaxed doing it.
Yeah.
First time I went out as a snatch marshal, God, that was stressful.
Really?
All of a sudden, I am in control. I'm on the radio. I've got to do it I'm not just following someone else, I'm doing it myself.
Yeah.
And I've got people I need to take with me and make sure they don't get killed. And that was stressful. And now I've done it a couple of years. I can't remember how long I've done it now. It's all a blur. But I'm quite calm at it now.
Yeah.
First time on the radio, I was with Tony Apsian.
Yeah.
And he said, after my first radio call, he said, your voice went up 4 octaves. I probably knew that,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel like it at the time. But that was the adrenaline kicking in. There was a lot going on in my head, and I had to think it all through very quickly.
Yeah, same happened when that legend nearly hit us at pit exit.
Yeah,
The
it goes up
Yeah.
because you are so stressed.
I had a trainee that got injured. I had her dad next to me, and I had to get them away and then figure out what on earth we were going to do to deal with this car that had just nearly smashed into us and was now near the barrier. And I got back afterwards and I was talking to someone and they went, your voice, it just sped up like 5 times. I was like, well, yeah, it's going to.
But you get to a point where you've done it a few times and you calm down, and then you can actually start to assess the situation properly.
Yeah.
I tend not to go out to incidents now unless there's only a couple of us on post. I let the other guys go, and I try and make sure if they're doing something daft, I shout at them to do it in a safer way. Generally, I don't feel the need to go out. I let other people have their moment.
Yeah.
It builds their experience. It means I can take a step back and really understand what's going on and keep the whole situation assessed. I find it just more relaxing.
Fair.
It's never relaxing dealing with an incident.
No.
But it's not that more relaxing, it's less stressful.
Yeah. See, that's
And
why
I can make my radio calls much more clearly now.
Yeah, because this is the thing, you've got to get that radio call right in the moment. You've got to let race control know what's happening. And I want to come on incident more on track, which is something I never thought I'd say. I never thought I'd want to go on track again after my taster day, just because I found it really boring. Because there's just not enough for me to do. But I want to come on to incidents so I know how to deal with stuff.
A lot of time on incident, as I say, you stood around doing nothing. It depends what post you're on. Sometimes I've been on Old Hairpin, done nothing all day. How can I be on the Old Hairpin where something happens every 5 minutes for some people and I get nothing all day?
It's insane.
It's just odd.
Yeah.
And yet some days I've been on post 2 non-stop, all on my own. It was me and a flaggy on post 2. I was opening the gate, I was shutting the gate, I was pushing cars, I was up to the pit lane exit. I was all over the shop. I was knackered.
I'm not surprised.
But nothing major happened, which
Yeah.
is nice. But sometimes you want a bit of action, and sometimes it doesn't happen, and you can't predict it. You just can't. So
That's the thing, that's what scares me. Like, I want to go on instant, but I don't want to be on instant all day and nothing happen. And I've not actually learned much for the day.
you've learned how to survive doing nothing all day.
I'm terrible at that.
I mean, there's a lot of things go on in incident. It's not just about the big stuff. It's sweeping up gravel.
Tell us a little bit about the rescue unit.
Rescue unit is hard work. It's a combination of hard work and sleeping. When I was doing my rescue training, I needed a lot of signatures. There's so much training you've got to do. And I started mid-year, which meant I missed out on the training at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So, because you've got to do all the training in 2 years, I had to get a lot of signatures very quickly. And I wasn't really getting them on the unit fast enough. You can't do things in the day when you're actually active and prepared to go out and do rescue stuff.
Yeah, if half your stuff's out because you're training, it's not really gonna.
So I thought the offer came up, go to Not Kill, do some training. And I thought, oh, why not? Give it a go. Never been to Not Kill.
Yeah.
Know a few people from up there. And went and did it. And it was bloody awesome.
Yeah.
They do proper scenarios. They get cars and they shove them in a forest upside down with a driver underneath the vehicle and another co-driver inside the car, and you've got to get there, assess the situation, deal with it.
Okay, how do you even start to deal with that? Like, walk me through that, because I always wondered this.
Well, the first thing is just look and see what you've got. And that's a challenge, because sometimes what you think you see is not what's there.
Okay.
So you have to get out of the van and go and have a look. And the first one I did there, literally, it was a car in the trees, up a bank, and there was a live person in the driver's seat, and a dummy had been ejected through the windscreen about 40 feet in front of the car.
Oh,
so
that's not a light one.
No. So we were looking at this thing, and the first thing you got to do is try and stabilise the vehicle, because what you don't want is the vehicle sliding out of the forest down the bank and then landing on rescue crew or recovery crew.
I never even thought of that.
You've got to tie it to things like trees.
Seriously?
But as we were going up with ropes and trying to tie this car to make sure it didn't move whilst we're trying to recover the driver, you suddenly realise there's this dummy in the forest. So all of a sudden I'm wandering off with this medic to see what the hell's going on with this extra casualty. And of course the assessors are there, and they're giving you details of what this dummy is experiencing, shall we say. And
This dummy is sad.
Bit more descriptive in medical terms, and it gets a bit gooey.
Oh, nice.
There's some terms you don't want to hear. But then you're trying to work out what's the priority. What do I do with this casualty, with that casualty? Where do I put the people? Now, fortunately, that wasn't my job. You get a crew chief who does all of that stuff, and I'm just there to do the jobs that I've been trained to do.
That makes sense.
So I do things like stabilise the car, things like cut things, help with the medical side. So in the end, I ended up stranded with this medic dealing with this dummy, whilst everybody else is dealing with the driver in the car, because everybody wants to get the cutting gear out, and they're all dealing with the stuff that is in the book.
Yeah.
But the trick is to know the full situation and to make sure that you're dealing with the right priorities in the right sequence.
Yeah.
Not just focusing on the one thing that's in front of you, because it's easy to do that. One casualty, easy.
Yeah.
2 casualties, not so easy. 2 cars, 4 casualties, starts to get complex. Now you're having to get in triage.
Ooh.
So you have to have seen all 4 of them to know what sequence you're going to deal with them in.
Oh, God.
You can't just look at one and go, he's bad, I'm going to deal with him.
Yeah, no, you've got to look at all of them to see which is worst.
Yeah. And you might get to the position where you go, actually, that one's a goner.
Really?
Yeah, might. Unlikely, but if they're not going to survive and you've got one medic,
You need them to go
you have to prioritise the ones that you can help. And some of them, they might survive perfectly well for 10 hours without much medical attention. They may have broken bones and all sorts of stuff, might be in pain. But if they can survive, you might not give them the immediate attention.
Yeah.
The one that's having a heart attack or a massive bleed,
Yeah, you might go to them first.
probably deal with the severe hemorrhage first. If you've got no blood, it doesn't matter how much CPR you do, it's not going to get oxygen to the brain. Keep the blood inside the body. It gets that crude, quite frankly.
Fair. That's fair. I love it.
Catastrophic bleeding comes first before airways, breathing or circulation.
Really? I thought airways would come first.
Well, people talk about the ABC.
Yeah, you can
airway,
tell
breathing, circulation. If you look inside the Motorsport UK rescue training book, it lists the sequence, and it starts off with catastrophic bleed, airway, breathing, circulation. Because if you've not got a heartbeat, your brain will survive for a few minutes. You can get CPR going. If you're not breathing, you can do artificial respiration. You can get the oxygen into the blood, keep it going around the body. That'll keep them going until you can get a defibrillator on them.
Okay.
If you've got no blood in there, it doesn't matter how much CPR you do, you're not going to get any oxygen around the body to the brain, at which point they are dead.
Yeah.
So catastrophic bleed comes first. Even worse, if they're bleeding out, you won't be able to get a needle in to get fluids into them
Oh, yeah.
to keep them going.
So do you have to handle, how much medical stuff do you have to learn?
You have to know a fair bit. You're not expected to be able to do, I was going to say a lot of it, but you have to do some of it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't stick a needle in someone, but you'd certainly be able to prepare a drip
Really?
and be able to hand it to a medic to stick it in.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I can get it out, I can get the drip set up, I get the line with all the bubbles out of it, make sure it's all ready to go, get a needle on the end of it, and hand it to a paramedic or a doctor.
Wow.
They would insert it, they would add any drugs. We have to know what's in the bag as well.
Really?
Yeah, lots of things you've got to check. Is it the right product? because you can have glucose or saline.
Okay.
You want saline mostly.
Okay.
Is it the right concentration? Is it in date? That should have all been checked before you get to a scene. Check that in the morning or the week before or whatever.
That was one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Do you have like a favourite bit of kit on the rescue unit?
Favourite bit of kit on the rescue unit? Yeah. Ooh, that's a tricky one.
I do try.
Because I have to know all of them, so I've been through all the training. It's going to have to be the hydraulics. I mean, popping the door off a car. One of the things you train to do. First time you do it, you think, this is big kit. This is big stuff. So having the spreader and knowing where to put it, how to get the spreader into the gap. Because first thing you've got to do is make a gap between the door and the wing.
Yeah.
You've got to get the tool into the place where you're going to actually work. And then when you realise, you think you're going to cut the door off. No, you don't cut the door off, because if you cut the door off, what you're doing is cutting the hinges. And the hinges, don't know if you've ever noticed that the weight of a car door is quite substantial.
Yeah.
And the hinges are quite small. If you examine them, they're not big.
Yeah.
And they are made of hardened steel.
Oh.
The tools we use are made of hardened steel. If you have one bit of hardened steel trying to cut another bit of hardened steel, it's a 50-50 guess which one's going to break first.
Oh my gosh.
Are you going to cut the hinge or are you going to break the tool?
Oh my god.
So we don't actually cut anything at that point. You use the spreader and you try and get it either above or just below the hinge.
Yeah.
And you rip it out. So if you have a look at the hinge on your car, on the car door, it'll be bolted or some kind of large rivety type joint connecting the hardened steel bit to the not quite so hardened steel frame, the A-pillar, which extends down in front of the door. What you're trying to do is pull those fastenings through the soft steel.
Oh, okay.
So the whole hinge and the fastenings comes away from the frame of the car. So you're spreading the whole thing out. So if you get the tool, the spreader, right in close between the door and the bottom of the A-pillar, at the hinge, either immediately above or immediately below, depending on which hinge you're using, and then you spread it, you basically open that gap up more than the size of the hinge, and that rips those fixings straight through the steel. So you are breaking softer steel with hardened steel.
Oh my god.
And that's how your tool survives, and that's how you break the car apart.
That's smart. Whoever came up with that is smart.
And that's what the fire service do on the M1 if you have an accident on the M1, and we use their techniques. And we learn from them.
Really?
Yeah, it's all based on what the fire and rescue teams do.
I did not know that.
Everything we do in motorsport is basically the same as they do in the fire service.
I thought it was some like special motorsport variety.
Exactly the same. We have some subtle differences in as much as...
Orange?
I'll come on to the orange story in a minute. We have roll cages in cars. Cars on the motorway don't.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware, it's a thing called the mechanism of impact. If the car hits frontal and it's sufficiently hard that it bends the roll cage, you've now distorted that roll cage, you put energy into it. It's like a spring. So if you cut a bit of that roll cage, that energy can be released.
Oh.
So you have to make sure, if you're trying to get a driver out, because the roll cage has all been distorted around them, you cut the bits away from the driver first, so that if something's going to ping apart, you're doing that away from the driver.
Oh my god.
And you've got to make sure you don't get yourself in the bit where that bit of roll cage is going to ping in your face, or your hand, or wherever. So you cut those bits first, release some of the energy that's stored in the car from the impact, because don't forget, it was doing 120 mile an hour when it hit the wall. Some of that energy went into heat, some of that energy went into distorting bits of car, and some of it went into the bit you're trying to cut now. And that stored energy is still in there. You cut it, you release that energy, that pings apart. You want all that going on away from the driver. So when you get to the last bits near the driver, you're not putting the driver in any more risk.
Ah, so you work like outwards in.
No, it depends on the mechanism of the impact. if you've had a side impact and it's not bad and it's not distorted the car a lot,
Yeah.
chances are you won't need to cut much roll cage to get the driver out. Depends on the construction of that particular car. Some cars, the driver just jumps out through the hole, or you can lift them through the hole. If it's been bent, you might not have a lot of caterhams. There's not a lot of room in a roll cage in a caterham at the best of times.
No.
I can't imagine if one of those gets distorted, there'd be much room to do anything without cutting it.
No.
Not have to do it, but yeah. There's a lot you have to understand about construction of cars, the operation of motorsport events, as well as the tools and the medical stuff.
Yeah.
It's all there.
What's the worst you've dealt with?
A dislocated thumb.
Seriously, I can deal with that.
Exactly. Well, we picked the driver up, put him in the back of an ambulance, took him to med centre, that was it.
Oh my god.
I mean,
I expect
really,
it to be a lot more dramatic.
they're not big ones.
Well,
We are running out of time.
thank you so much for letting me interview you.
You're
I am
welcome.
very, very grateful. I don't know how to finish these off. Do you want to say goodbye to the lovely microphone?
Goodbye, lovely microphone, lovely people.